Okay, so after creating our first band, we use the sweeping tool to create um, a simple band using the curve, which is the finger size, or we basically look for the diameter of a certain finger size, create a curve that is, or the circle curve that is the correct diameter, and we add a profile to it. The profile is going to be the shape of the band itself, so it'll determine the height and width of the band. And we sweep the rail and the profile to give me a ring. So I want to just go over the sweeping a bit more. So I'm going to create an Eternity Band, and you get to see how powerful sweeping is. If you can understand sweeping, you can really do a lot of complicated designs. So I'm going to start off in my front view again, and I'm going to create my circle curve. So in the command line it says center of circle. So 0, enter, that's the center. We're in the center of my screen. And I'm going to type the finger size. So I'm going to go 17.2, enter, and that the diameter for a 17.2 circle curve is relative to a size 7 finger. Next, what I want to do is I want to import a gem. So the gem you can download from our website. If you go to our website, and I'm going to go import a second, and I'm going to go import a gem. So here I have a this gem here. To get it the right size, what I want to do is just go to the top view where I can see the top of the gem. I'm going on the circle curve. So if you remember again, 0 is the center of the curve. And here I can type the diameter in the command line of how large I want this gem to be. So let's say I would have a 3mm gem. I'm going to type 3, enter. And it'll hard to see, but I have a circle curve here. And I want to scale this gem to this circle curve. So we have a few ways to scale. If I click the gem, we have the gumball. So the gumball has these arrows here, and these arrows allow me to move it left, right, up, down. So just whatever the direction the arrows are. And on the opposite end of the arrows, we have these little squares or cubes. And this will allow me to scale the object in that one direction. If I select, click on the square here, and I hold shift on the keyboard at the same time, I can scale in 3 dimensions, which is what I want to do here. And I'm just going to align this gem to my 3mm circle curve. Okay. So now this gem is roughly 3mm. I can zoom in as much as I want and just try to make this as close to 3mm as possible, but that's roughly 3mm here. And I'm just going to position sorry, the gem closer to the finger curve I have here. So I'm going to select it, use the gumball, bring it down, and I don't want it touching this line. I want it just above. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to just bring this down so the bottom of the gem touches the line, and then I'm going to click the arrow here and then type a value. So I want to bring this up 0.5 of a millimeter. So that means from the bottom of this gem to the finger curve is going to be 0.5 millimeters. So for this, I'm going to create a bezel. And to create that, I'm going to draw a profile going here on the front view. I'm going to draw a bezel on the side here. Okay. So to draw that, I'm going to click here on the polyline, and I'm going to draw out a profile. So I'm going to come up here, draw it to the side. So this polyline tool, it'll just draw a segmented line. So to make this part right here, I want to have it at least 0.5 to 0.6 millimeters. I'm going to take 0.6, and you'll notice here the line is 0.6. I'm going to hold shift to lock it into that, so it's a horizontal line. Click, and then I'm going to bring this down. I want to bring this down just below the finger curve. Bring it in, so let's go 1 millimeter, and bring this back up and connect. So this is my profile for my bezel. Now I don't really notice or see anything here, but you'll see what I'm going to do with it when I sweep it. So this circle curve that I drew around for the gem earlier, I can use this. And I'm going to bring this up. And what I'm going to do is, this is going to be the rail. And this shape I drew here is the profile. So what I want to do is basically take this profile and sweep it around the gem. So I'm going to I'm going to type in the command line sweep 1. It's going to say select rail, which is this circle curve. And then cross section is this one here. Enter, enter again, and then click OK. If you see here, it's created a bezel. Okay, so this shape here, this profile that I drew earlier, is going to create the shape and size of the bezel or the side profile. This basically just tells the direction of the sweep. So all I want to do here is basically say, take this curve and wrap it around the gem. So again, I'm going to sweep 1, click on the rail, and then the cross section, and enter twice, and click OK. So now I've created my bezel. Okay. So what I want to do, I want to create Eternity Band with this. So to create my Eternity Band, I'm going to select the gem and the bezel by clicking on them while holding shift. And I will do something called array polar. I'm going to type in the command line, array polar. And if you notice, I am in the front view. So make sure array polar is reliant on the viewport you're in. So I want to make sure I'm in the front view where the circle curve is, and I'm going to type array polar in the command line. It'll say center my polar array, 0 is the center of my screen, and number of items. So here we're going to play with how many gems we can put around this curve. So right now I'm going to assume a total number of 18. So I'm going to type 18 items. So it's including the initial gem and bezel. My angle fill first reference, it should say 360. If not, type 360, hit enter, and then you'll see this. So this is showing that it's filling 360-degree rotation, and there's 18 items, including the initial gem and bezel I had created. If it's wrong, you can just go to the items and change the value of items, and it'll change the value or the number of items it's array polaring. So I'll type 20. See, I got 20 here. And if I want, I'll type 10, and I got 10. Okay, so I'm gonna go with 20 for this. Actually, let's just do 18. Hit enter to finish. And if I go to my perspective view, while it's shaded, you can see I have 18 gems and bezels to create a Eternity Band. Pretty much done. We just got one more step to do, and that is we have to basically, if you look at this circle curve here, we need to cut this bezel so that the it's not going through this circle curve, because that means if it's going through, it's too small. The finger size is too small for this ring. What I want to do now is basically go and do something called an extrusion. So I'm going to type extrude curve and click here, and then I'm going to extrude this now. In the command line, you want to make sure that it says solid equals yes, and both sides equals yes, and then see I can extrude it both sides, and you can see it's a solid object. Click, and now I have this cylinder here, and this cylinder here is a size 7. Next thing I want to do is basically cut these bezels with the cylinder curve. To do that, we're going to type Boolean difference, and it'll say here select surfaces or poly surfaces to subtract from. So I'm going to select on all my bezels by clicking on them, and then hit enter. And in the command line, it'll say select surfaces or poly surfaces to subtract with. I'm going to click on the cylinder here and then hit enter. Click OK, broke history. I'll go over that later. But as you can see, I have cut the bezel, so now this Eternity Band is now a size 7. Another way I could do this, if I undo, so to undo you can hit Ctrl Z. So I undo, and I bring back the first bezel. I can extrude this circle curve, so extrude curve with solid yes, and both sides yes. I can Boolean difference the 1 and then array polar after, rather than have to select each bezel and then Boolean differencing after. So I'm going to type Boolean difference, select the surface I want to cut, enter, and select what I'm using to cut the surface, which is this cylinder. And then hit enter to complete, broke history, that's fine. And then there's my bezel. Okay, so I'm going to select both the gem and the bezel by clicking shift as I click on them. Go back to my front view since array polar is reliant on the viewport. And then I'm going to type array polar, enter, read the command line, it says center of polar array, so that's 0, enter, number of items, so it remembers what I had used previous, so 18, enter, angle of fill 360 degrees, enter, and if I'm happy with this, enter again to complete. Now I have my Eternity Band. Okay, so I don't know if you guys understood the whole sweeping thing, but if you can wrap your head around sweeping, you can start doing a lot of complicated designs. And I think this is a good time just to show the layers palette. So if I want to change colors of this, so let's say these gems here, I want to make them blue, so they're just not everything's all gray or lines are all black. I'm just going to click on all the gems. So remember, hold shift and click. From there, I'm going to go to my layers. I'm going to right click, new layer, click on the color here, and then we get a color palette. So for this, let's just go blue. Okay. And I'm going to right click on the layer and then change object layer. Now my gems are all blue. I'm going to select all my bezels. Go to my layers, right click, new layer. I'm going to change the color of this. So let's say I want my bezels to be purple. Click OK. Right click on the layer, change object layer. Now those are purple. Okay, and you can see it looks a lot better. Another way of changing the layer color of the object. So as long as you have in the layer tab, you have different colors. You can actually go to properties, click on the object, and we can say here in layer, you can actually choose the color you want to change it to. But you just need to make sure that in your layers you have multiple colors so that you have the option to change the color in the layer here in the properties menu. Okay, so the benefit of doing this in layers, here layers 0, 1 and 0, 2. So the blue, I can click on the light bulb here, it'll hide that layer color, or I can click the lock and it will lock down that layer color, so I can't select the blue now since it's locked. Okay. So, oh, and then just to show you, so I briefly mentioned about the viewport rendering. So we had wireframe, so you can see the wires, okay, or see through the object. Shaded just makes it solid. And we have ghosted, so you can see through the objects. And X-ray, so same thing. And then artistic, so as if you drew it. So play with these, whichever you prefer in terms of working in. I prefer shaded and wireframe. Also, if you go to display menu, you can also just change the, let's say you don't want to see all the curves, you can just turn off the curves, and then now it's hidden. Bring it back. That's it. Thank you, and next we'll create a 4-prong head.